hello. Good morning, everybody. I guess it's morning on the West Coast and starting afternoon on the East Coast, but good morning. Hello, everybody. How is everybody today? Please, as you join, just chime in, say where you're chiming in from, and yeah, I'm really excited. Hello. Good morning. Happy Monday. Did everybody survive Thanksgiving? We had a great long weekend. So awesome. Hello, New Jersey. Hello. So thankful for you guys joining this morning. Let's get started. My name is Dawn Atkinson. I am a visionary team member with Sexy Hair. I've been a licensed hairdresser for, I believe I'm going on my 23rd year this year. And I'm super excited to be joining Hairbrain today. And I'm really excited about this series. When Hairbrain reached out and said, we want you to come on and be a part of Professionals Who Practice series. And I love that because as long as I've been doing hair, we all need to practice, right? We need to practice to be the best we can be when we're working in the salon. And I'm really excited. So I want to thank Hairbrain for having me today, as well as Pivot Point, because Pivot Point is sponsoring this series, and I'll be working on some of my favorite Pivot Point mannequins as I work through this adorable shag. Hello, good morning, everybody. So yeah, so this is actually Josephine. This is one of my favorite Pivot Point mannequins, really great density to work with, and it's a really great cutting mannequin. So this is my modern take on the classic shag. How many of you guys have been doing shags like crazy this year? It's been probably the hottest haircut when I'm working in the salon. And how many of you guys feel the same way? Everybody's wanting the shag, everybody's wanting the curtain fringe. It's probably the most requested that I've had this year. And I've seen a lot of different takes on the modern shag, but I find that this approach that I'll be sharing with you today is super predictable in the salon, really fast and efficient. So that's what we want, right? To work really quickly, really efficiently with our hair cutting, and more importantly, really customizing our hair cutting to that individual client's needs that are sitting in our chair. So this is, I actually prepped her a little bit last night. I gave her kind of a fun money piece because who doesn't want that right now? These fun money piece highlighting techniques. And you can see that she's got a lot of really fun texture in her shag. And what's great about the shag, guys, is like it's perfect for all face shapes. So we love that, right? We love those haircuts that no matter the face shape, it's super appealing and really beautiful and lays so nice and soft on our clients. So this is Josephine. This is our modern shag, and this is what I'll be teaching you guys today. So as I'm going through with really just technique and how I really attack this design, I want you guys and encourage you guys to chime in and ask any questions that you guys may have as I continue to work, as well as just any comments, questions, anything at all, because that's how we learn, right? To be engaging. So you guys, I encourage you to engage with me, and I will continue to answer any of your questions. If I miss them, no worries. Hello from Mexico. If I miss them, no worries. I'll go back after the live and make sure that I get every single one of your questions and comments answered. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. So here's my Maddie, and I want to share with you guys my sectioning. So how many of you guys section when you, Alaska, that's awesome. How many of you guys are pre-sectioning before you do your haircuts in the salon? Just by a show of hands, I would love to put your hand up or say yes if you guys are pre-sectioning in the salon. I think for myself, 20 plus years ago, I thought, oh, I'm an artist. I don't need to section hair. I just go in and start creating and see what I get because I'm an artist. And I found that when I wasn't pre-sectioning, I never really got super predictable results. And I found that once I started really taking the time to section off based on the head shape and the individual client that I was working on, I found that my results were much more predictable, and I was able to customize the haircut to the individual client's head shape. So with this modern shag, I'll just share with you guys her partings. I've sectioned from approximately up to the apex to the corner of each eye for her curtain fringe. I've subdivided front from back, so the high point of the head to just behind the ears on the sides. And then I sectioned out the crown of this doll head, and I went down to a point at the occipital bone. So as I go through, I'm going to share with you why I'm parting the way that I am and how you can customize and change that up. But keep in mind that when you are doing your sectioning, the sectioning should always mimic what you want the end result to be. So I'm doing this beautiful like short to long shag. So if you think about that short to long, short being the front because everything will be based off of this fringe in the haircut. I'll start with the fringe and then moving back towards the nape. So if I want that shorter to longer in the nape feel, I'll actually do my sectioning that way, and that's going to make sure that my section mimics my end result. So just thinking about that, like really thinking about the big picture. So let's just go ahead and get started. As I shared, the fringe is going to be the first thing that we do. And don't you guys, like, how many of you guys are just constantly, everybody wants the curtain fringe. I think it's so funny how like our younger clientele, they're like, oh, I want the bangs that you see on TikTok. They think that TikTok created the curtain fringe, but they didn't. We know that as the professionals, right? So I'm going to show you how I like to create my curtain fringe. Now, with your parting, now I went to about to the apex to the corner of each eye. Keeping in mind, depending on how thick or thin you want your end result of your curtain fringe to be is going to determine how far back on the top of the head I go. But based because she has like medium density to her hair, I just went back to the apex, and I don't want like a super thick fringe, but I want that like soft draping over her forehead, and then I'll start blending that into the sides and the back profiles. I am going to be using a razor. So actually when I first started doing hair, I was always using the razor, and then we started using the texturizing shears. That was a huge thing, and the chunking shears, and then I was just doing a lot of scissor cutting. And I'm really excited to bring back the razor, because when we're seeing these really textured end result haircuts, we can put all kinds of product in the hair to create texture, but if you start from the get-go with your cut, creating that textured finish to your ends, you're going to get much more texture of an end result. So it's like starting right off the bat, I'm making sure that I'm putting that texture in from the haircut all the way through, and then I can like top it off with my stylers later, close the deal, right? So with my razor, I'm going to show you how you can create different finishes with your razor. So depending on how much texture you want for an end result will determine how you use the razor. So I'm going to subdivide this fringe in half. Okay, so I am doing this with a center part as well. One common question is, if she had a side part, what would I do different? The only thing I would do different if she had a side part, each one of the sides of my fringe is going to be directed opposite of where it lives. So I'm just going to wrap this around to the opposite side. So this is her left side of her fringe, and I'm wrapping it over to the right. With your curtain fringe, your finger angle is going to mimic your parting. Okay, so your parting here is a diagonal forward parting. My finger angle is going to mimic that parting. Depending on how much softness or more strength that I want in my fringe is going to determine how much I elevate the hair. Keep in mind that as I'm moving through this haircut, the more you elevate the hair when you're working through the design, the more layers and graduation you're creating. So if I keep my elevation really, really low, I'm going to have a super strong end result. But because I want this really textured, really free flicks and kicks, lots of movement in my shag, I'm going to elevate that a little bit higher so I get much more softer end result. Okay, so finger angles mimicking my part line. I'm laterally directing this over to the opposite side because distance equals length. So because I'm laterally directing this over, when it falls, it's going to be longer towards my corner. Okay, and then I'm going to come through with my razor and just do an up and down movement. Again, keeping in mind, depending on the amount of texture that I want, is going to determine how much up and down or in and out movement I create. If I want a much stronger end result, then I'm going to take little tiny notches. And if I want a softer, much more airy end result, then I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive with my razor. And keeping in mind too, if I come in with the razor flat to the section, it's going to be a much stronger end result of a perimeter when it falls. But because I want a lot of airiness, a lot of flicks and kicks, a lot of texture, I'm coming through with my razor and doing vertical strokes through that fringe. So coming from short, lowering my elevation because this hair here at the corner of her recession and at the corner of her fringe typically is going to be a little bit thinner than it will in the center. So I don't want to remove as much once I get through that corner. So you can see that the end result that I have in the fringe is very, very airy. But I do have that really beautiful short to long feel. And that's going to give me this really fun curtain fringe that's going to open up around her face. So I'll do the same thing on the opposite side. One thing that I always recommend in the salon is cutting this longer first and really kind of seeing like how does that bounce up. And if I like where it's at, we're good, but I can always go shorter. If I take it too short from the get-go, then, you know, you can't put it back, right? You can't put it back. So we want to make sure that, you know, we start long, see how it kind of lays, how it ends up. If we like it, we're good. If we want to go a little shorter, we can do that. But I actually really, really like that. I think that's going to open up really softly. And another thing that I'll do is I'll go back through and kind of customize in the very center of her fringe after I do the blow dry, if I need to, just to really customize that. I feel like that's kind of the icing on the cake, right? Your fringe is everything. I feel like, you know, for an overall haircut, you can like everything, but if you don't like the fringe, you're kind of doomed, right? So I really like to take that extra bit of time with my fringe and get it right. So I'm using a little bit of my center as my reference. Again, I'm laterally directing this over to the opposite side. My finger angle is parallel to the part line, okay? Depending on how much softness or strength that I want in the end result will determine how much I elevate the hair. But I'm coming up about 90-degree elevation on this. And again, depending on the texture that I'm looking for, will decide how much in and out movement I have with my razor. And then you'll see I did drop down that elevation towards the corners because our corners are always a little bit thinner. So we need to be a little less aggressive on our corners. So I'm just going to come in and take a little bit more off. So I'm matching on both sides. So you can see here on the surface of the fringe, it's very, very soft and airy. And that's what I really love about the razor, the end result that I get. It's very difficult to get that super, super soft finish with a shear, but I really can have fun with that razor. And now I have that really beautiful curtain fringe. And again, I can go back and customize that a little bit in the center at the end once I see how that bounces up when she's naturally dry. How are we doing, guys? Again, say where you guys are chiming in from. I'm actually from Central Illinois. So winter has begun. There were some flurries this morning here, and it's pretty chilly here. So, oh, hello, Indiana. You guys feel the same, I'm quite sure. So I'm going to drop down now my side profiles. London, hello. Hello, that is awesome. So I'm going to drop down my sides now. With the rest of the haircut, as I shared, the rest of the haircut will be based off of our fringe. So it's just going to follow through that really beautiful short all the way back through to the long at the nape. I do the customizing on the perimeter when I'm at the very, very end before I blow dry. Sweden, how amazing. Liverpool, awesome, guys. Love it. So now I'm just going to take vertical sections working through the back into the nape, and then the last is the crown, okay? So with my sections, I'm going to take vertical sections, directing this forward, laterally forward, so away from where it lives. Keep in mind that if she has very, very thin, fine hair, then I'm definitely going to laterally direct, or some of you may say over direct, the hair as far forward as I can so that I don't remove so much of the density through the side and the back profile. If she has very, very thick hair and I need to remove a lot of that internal weight in the design, then I'll take each section straight out from where it lives, no lateral movement, no over direction, so that I make sure that I remove a lot more of that interior. But because she's like thin to medium in density, I'm just going to take this straight forward. I'm going to use the top of my fringe as my guide for entry. So this is the very, very top center of my fringe. And I also have a little bit of that fringe on the interior that I'm holding. I'm not going to recut any hair that I've already cut, but I do have that as a visual reference to make sure that I'm staying on track. So I'm taking everything straight forward. I am elevating the hair about 90 degrees. Again, the more you elevate the hair, the more layering and the more hair you're going to remove from the internal part of that design. The lower you have the elevation, if she had very, very thin, fine hair and you don't want to take out too much of this weight through the sides, that's when I would keep the elevation very, very low. So as I'm doing this haircut, I'm just basing my movements and my sectioning on medium density hair. This can absolutely be on naturally wavy as well as curly hair. If it's much more thick, coarse, curly hair, then I have to kind of accommodate that, right? So that's where it's really important for you guys to start thinking about, all of us really, like when we're practicing, and I love mannequins because they're the perfect way to practice. I can see what the end result gives me, and then I can change my movements accordingly to get a different end result. So this is a great way to, really start to hone in on your haircutting skills and making sure that when we are doing what we're doing behind the chair every day, that we have really, really predictable results, right? And practice equals confidence. And I think that confidence is key when we're working in the salon. There's nothing worse than trying something new and it not turning out on a client. So how awesome is it? We can pull out our pivot point mannequins and we can practice, see what we end up with and what we need to change. And that way, when we're going back into the salons and we're creating these looks, we know what we're doing. We feel confident. So you see how now I'm already getting that beautiful short in the front with my curtain fringe, and then I'm moving back towards the nape area. So I'm going to go ahead and lift this up. Now I'm just going to continue to take vertical sections, and with my vertical sections, take what you can control. I think oftentimes, when we're trying to work through a haircut quickly, especially if we're behind in the salon, we try to take more hair just to get it done fast, but actually this haircut is really, really quick. So I like to take the amount of hair that I can control, making sure that my combing is really precise, and I'll get much more predictable results. So again, depending on what kind of texture I'm looking for in my design is going to determine how much in and out movement I go with my razor. Also keeping in mind, if we keep the razor much more vertical or perpendicular to the section that you're working on, then you're going to get a much more soft, feathery feel. If you have the razor very flat to the section that you're working on, you're going to get a much stronger end result. It's still going to be feathery and it's still going to be textured, but you will get a little bit more airiness with perpendicular rather than if you lay it flat to the section. It's going to be much stronger. So just keeping that in mind. So now I'm moving to my back area here. And one thing too, when we talk about like the hair that we're actually working on, if the hair is very, very fine and thin, I will come up much higher with my upside down teardrop section here. I'll come up much higher. I won't go all the way down to the occipital bone. And the reason that I do that is that if I go all the way down to the occipital bone, you can see that the interior of her haircut, this is all I have in the back profile, right? So if I go all the way down really low, and this is all I have left in the inside or the interior of her shag, you'll find that it's going to get so airy on the ends that it's going to be a very like old school classic shag where it just looks too thin. And I feel like the modern take on the classic shag, there's still density. It's not so airy that it looks like she needs 2 inches cut off, right? We don't want it to look so thin that she needs structure put back in. So if the hair is very, very fine, I will go much higher because this section is going to be the surface layer of her shag. If the hair is very, very thick, then I'll definitely go in much lower with my point here, because then this section that I'm putting those surface layers on is going to be like, I can remove a lot more hair. I hope that makes sense. Also, you can customize with this section through here, rather than bringing that laterally all the way forward to the front, because remember, distance equals length. So if I'm taking this all the way around to the front, you can see how I'm maintaining a lot more length and density in that nape area. So as I'm moving through my sections, depending on how much hair I want to remove is going to determine how much lateral movement or over direction I create. So just kind of thinking about the bigger picture. The sectioning stays exactly the same other than that crown, depending on if it's thick or thin, but the shape of all of my sectionings is exactly the same for my modern shag. I'm re-wetting with a little bit of Cutting Edge. Cutting Edge is actually our brand new from Artistry Pro. This is our lightweight priming conditioner. I actually absolutely love this for razor cutting in the salon, really any cutting, because it instantly detangles the hair and it adds so much slip and movement to the hair as I'm working through the haircut, especially with my razor. I always use a new razor with every single client, but you can imagine that if the hair is much more thick and coarse, you can go through a razor really, really quickly. So my Cutting Edge lightweight leave-in primer, it's a priming conditioner. It's so lightweight, I don't have to worry about being too heavy on the hair, but it also is going to set up my blow dry for success. So it has 48 hours of frizz control and humidity resistance. And you know, guys, like, we don't sell water in the salon, right? We sell product. So keeping that in mind as we're re-wetting our doll head here, why not use some of our leave-in conditioner? What's great about Artistry Pro is it's 100% exclusive. So this is only sold through professional distribution. Clients cannot get it anywhere other than from us, and we can only get it through professional distributors. So I encourage you guys to check out our brand new Artistry Pro. So now I'm just going to repeat this on the opposite side, doing the exact same thing. Everything is taken off of the fringe, so I'm using my fringe as my guide for the rest of the haircut, taking everything towards the fringe, laterally directing forward. How are we doing, guys? I love that, like, after Thanksgiving, everybody's like trying to get back in the salon, but what a perfect day to get back and be educated and re-inspired. And I'm so thankful that Hairbrained reached out, and I'm really, really excited about this series. I've been actually watching some of the other professional who practice series and love it. Like, don't we all just need to be like re-educated and re-inspired? I want to do hair a really long time, so I want to make sure that I'm always learning new techniques and new ways to do classic shapes. You know, I think that the pixie, the bob, and the long layer, they're going to be here forever. Wouldn't you guys agree? Like, they're not going anywhere. But I think it's important that we're always looking at new ways to approach those shapes so that we stay modern and we stay current and they don't look like old school, right? They look like new, modern, edged shapes. And this shag, I actually love it because it's like the perfect balance of the classic shag and the long layer. And again, like being appealing on every face shape. And it has so much versatility in styling because it's not so over layered that you can't pull it up in a ponytail or do lots of fun styling. You can wear it very straight, but you can also wear it really textured. And I think like with the shag, most people do want to have like that really fun texture and movement and flicks and kicks. So again, taking everything straight forward, laterally directing to the fringe, depending on the end result I'm looking for, as well as the client that I'm working on and its characteristics, her hair that I'm working on, I'll decide how much I want to elevate the hair. So keeping in mind, the more I elevate the hair, the more hair I'm removing. The less I elevate the hair, the more conservative I'm being with those internal layers. Do you guys have any questions so far? Are you enjoying what I'm sharing with you guys? So now I'm just going to comb this at natural fall, and you guys can see this really beautiful short to long draping over her shoulders, if she had them, right? Okay, so this is the foundation of the interior as well as the perimeter of her haircut. Okay, so I have this really beautiful long layered shaggy shape. And now I get to have fun with the crown. So the crown is going to be the surface layers of your modern shag. So this is great because this is where I can really customize what does that client want to see her end result. What does she want it to be? Does she want a lot of layering through the crown, or does she want it to be much more conservative and long layered, right? Like where the layers, we have those clients that say, oh, I want the first layer to be here and the second layer to be here. We know that that can't be done, right? But those surface layers that that client sees, they lay here. Okay, so when I'm doing the crown, this is really what's going to help determine where they see that first layer, right? Visually where they see that. So with her, I'm going to separate this crown section into 4 radial partings. And you'll see that I'm not picking up any of the hair underneath. These crown sections are going to lay over the top of her back profile. And I want them to come to that really nice soft taper so that it's really airy and not like a super chunky top layer, right? We want to see those layers like when you look at a haircut. I love when you see that, like, where exactly does it start and end? I mean, when you look at the end result with Josephine here, like when you look at her, you're like, wow, where do they actually start and end, right? You don't see like a heavy weight line where the beginning layers start. They're just very airy and start to flick and kick all throughout. And I really love that with doing this 4 radial subsections within my crown section. And I'll show you how you can get even more airiness as you break this section down. Again, I'm not picking up any of the hair that I've already cut. Now, we want the layers to blend from the front to back. So remember that I shared in the beginning that all of the haircut is based on that curtain fringe and then working towards the nape. So now I'm going to use the very top of my curtain fringe, or I'm sorry, the top of the head shape, because remember that the fringe blends short to long to the top, and then the top needs to blend short to long towards the very end. So I'm using my top of the head as my guide or reference point. And keeping in mind, again, the higher I elevate the hair, the more surface layering I'm gonna see, right? It's gonna be really a lot stronger of a layering technique through the top. And I'm gonna be removing a lot more hair. But if I lower my elevation, okay, depending on what I wanna see my end result to be, if I lower it way down, you can see that I'm removing a lot less hair than if I'm way up here. I'm really getting very strong rounded layers. So we want to go about right in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to start with 90-degree elevation here, approximately, just for teaching purposes. There's my top of the head shape, okay? And then I'm going to come through going in and out with my razor, lowering my elevation until I get a really fine taper. It's important to get that super fine taper that lays over that nape area so that you don't end up seeing those really like chunky layers on the surface. We want it to be really soft to where you can't tell where they start and end. Okay, each one of my radial subsections is held straight out from where it lives because I want to have consistent layering all the way around the crown. If I needed the layers towards the sides to be longer, then I would laterally direct them back. But I want a really consistent, nice, soft, round shape without removing a ton of hair. So I'm coming in approximately 90-degree elevation. Again, I have my guide right next door or the top of the head shape. I can grab from either one, deciding how much texture I want to see with my razor. So that's how much in and out movement I have. And as I lower my elevation, it's great because I can see exactly where that layer is going to end, right? I know if I pick up the hair here, it's very difficult to see, like, you know that I'm removing a ton of hair. And then when it drops, what do we know? It's going to drop and then it's like, oh gosh, now I have all these layers that I have to go in and razor out more or texturize, shear out more. I want to see like really soft airiness, short to long, that lays over the nape and the back profile. Very soft. That's why I'm being more aggressive with my in and out movement to a very soft taper. So you guys see here with the end result, look how soft and airy that is. That's what I want to see with my modern shag. Last one. Make sure I'm not picking up any of the hair that I've already cut. We don't need to recut that. Using the guide from the top of the head shape. There we go. See that? Okay. And then cut from short to long, laying over that back and nape. And now all I have left is my perimeter. Now, what I want to share with you guys about that, I've been kind of playing around with like shaggy bobs because I believe that that is really what the next thing's going to be. Everybody's going to want the shag. And then they're going to want something new, right? Like everybody's kind of getting the shag right now, but they're going to want to change it up. But still, when you get used to that really like beautiful airy shape, you want to go a little shorter. So what's awesome is that the shaggy bob is going to be the exact same haircut, but shorter. So you guys can see that, right? Like this could be the shaggy lob right there. How cute is that, right? Or you can bring it even shorter. That is going to be the shaggy bob. So I would attack the haircut exactly the same, which is pretty awesome because you've already like created that shape on her. It's just really determined by how short or long you go with your perimeter at the end. So I want this to be longer, like I showed you with my inspiration with Josephine. We're going to do the same thing with Maddie. So they're going to be little shag sisters, right? And it's going to be really cute. So now this is when I just go in and I decide how long or short do I want my shag to be. So I'm coming in, taking everything down at natural fall. So right where the hair lives, okay? And now I can go in and create my perimeter. So I'm not really going to be removing much hair except for right here at the very, very bottom, because I want that to be my long modern shag. So again, natural fall, so making sure that it's laying on the round naturally where it wants to live. Okay. And then go through and create my perimeter. Now, because I want a little bit more structure in that perimeter, I don't want her end result to look like, oh my gosh, I already need a haircut again. Why does it look so frayed? Remember what I shared earlier about when you come in with the razor more flat, you're going to get a much more strong, more structured end result. If you come in more perpendicular or vertical with the end of your razor, then it's going to be a lot more airy, which can be good. It's important to think about what kind of hair am I working on? What is the tapestry? What is the canvas that I'm working on? And what do I want the end result to be? I want to put a little bit more structure in her perimeter. So I'm coming through with my razor flat to the section. And just blending that right in with my short to long through the side profiles. And that's the haircut, guys. Like, what do you think? Like, is it an easy approach to the shag? Do you guys feel like this is something that you guys could utilize in the salon right away? Again, I was saying how I've been kind of like practicing a lot with the shags this year and thinking about like what kind of end result am I looking for? What is the overall look that I'm looking? Easy, yes, thank you so much. But you know, haircutting doesn't have to be difficult. And I think that, you know, when we overcomplicate haircutting, it just gets overcomplicated. But when we take a much easier approach based on the head shape, you get a much more beautiful end result. So this is even just like starting to dry naturally. And you can see how beautiful this is. And this is great because she could put a little bit of blow dry cream or mousse or gel and let it air dry for that very like lived in, which is kind of what we've been seeing a lot this year, right? A lot of lived in shapes. Oh, awesome. I'm so glad that you guys are loving it. Thank you so much. So you could definitely just let this air dry, put a little cream in that, polish it up. But I want to show you guys how I would typically blow her out. I think that blow drying is so important. Could you do this cut with scissors point cutting? Absolutely. Great question. I believe it's Tanya. Great question. Absolutely. You could do it. If you're more comfortable with the shear, then you can absolutely go in and point cut. Just keep in mind that when you are point cutting, you're going to have a much stronger end result. It's not going to be as feathery and airy, which is totally fine. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. But yeah, just go at it exactly in the same way with your shears and point cutting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go in with a couple of my new favorites to blow her out. I was sharing that like I feel like the blowout is just as important as the haircut. You can give someone the greatest haircut in the world, but if you don't give them a really beautiful blowout that they feel that they can duplicate at home, then what is it worth, right? Like we can make or break a haircut by the finish. So I want to show you guys how I like to approach the finish of the modern shag. And I always encourage stylists to, like, when they're doing a style, especially if they're going to give somebody a new haircut and they're doing a finish, that they set up their phone on this station and record the process. Because we can say all day long, like, this is how I do it. And then when they get home, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't remember. What way did she do the brush? You know, what products did she use? What's great is that when they record the process, they can see what products you use, where you use it, why you use it, because you're educating them along the way on how and why and where to use the product. And, you know, it's great because I've seen clients at the grocery store like a week later after doing their hair, and I'm like, oh gosh, it looks terrible, right? Like, we've had that. I don't want that. They are our walking billboard. So we want to make sure that they look absolutely stunning when we see them, you know, after they leave the salon. We want them to look great when they leave, and we want them to look great when we see them, when they're coming back to see us in 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm actually going to use a couple new products from Sexy Hair, from our Calm Sexy Hair. This is our CBD infused line. This is Wet Fix and Chill. This is our All Style cream that you can use as a blow dry styler, as well as you can put it in the hair and just let the hair air dry. It really helps control frizz. I'm loving it to add to my regimen when I'm styling the salon. And then I'm cocktailing with a little bit of our Dose. Dose is our silicone-free oil. So this is amazing for those that are looking for more of a silicone-free, but it's great because I cocktail it with my Wet Fix and Chill. We love cocktailing product. And I get this really, really beautiful finish on the hair. It's always so shiny and really, really smooths down that cuticle. All of the Calm Sexy Hair products are infused with 99% pure CBD. So the fragrance is very universal for men or women. And it's just a niche lineup that I can add into my normal lineup in the salon. And clients are really loving it. It's a great conversation piece. So I'm putting that through. Now, again, I shared with my modern shag, you could put some cream in there and then just let it, you know, air dry. But I want to go through and do a blowout. So with your blowout, you want to make sure that you're blowing out about 90% dry before you hit it with a round brush. And I always go at my blowout thinking about, like, what do I want my end result to be? Obviously, we do the same with cutting, so I'm going to do the same with finishing. I'm going to get the hair about 90% dry, and then we'll go in with our round brush. So I'm going to go ahead and just get her rough dried a little bit. She's almost there, but I need to get her a little bit more dry before I go in with the round brush. So how are you guys doing? Like, have you guys loved what I've been sharing with you? Do you have any questions, comments, anything at all? I'll go back through after. Thank you, Anne. That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much. Again, this is Maddie. She is one of the Pivot Point mannequins that I really like to work on. Oh, you missed cutting the fringe. Yes, absolutely. Go back to the beginning after the live and you guys can see, and I will recap as well. I'm going to recap how I did the haircut for all of you that are just joining. And what I've been sharing is the how-to modern take on the classic shag. Yes, I can't wait for you to try it too. I'm always looking for new ways to approach hair designs, hair cutting, styling, whatever I see. You know, I think we're all looking for new education, new ways to be inspired, new ways to do the classic things that we've been doing. I kind of shared a little bit about, like, I've been doing hair for, I think this is my 23rd year. And we can't always do hair the same we did when we started, right? We got to stay current. We got to stay relevant. And what a great way with this series, Professionals Who Practice series on hairbrains. And I encourage you guys to like go watch all of the videos in the Professionals Who Practice series. They're so good. And I love it because it's hairdressers from all different brands and everything from hair cutting to finishing, upstyling, some fundamental approaches as well as creative approaches. I love it. Okay, so she is now about 90% dry. And this is when I go in with my round brush. So she's about 90% there. I'm gonna part off the top and put this out of the way and save this for later. I'm gonna keep the fringe out because I think when we're finishing hair, I think that the client, at least for myself, they need to see that instant gratification, like, I'm gonna love this, right? And I see sometimes when stylists will like turn their client away from the mirror and they'll finish it and then they like turn them around like this big reveal. But the anxiety they must feel, especially if you've given them a brand new haircut, right? The anxiety they must feel when they can't see while you're blow drying for that, 20 minutes or so. So I think it's important to, again, make sure that they can see what you're doing the whole time, that you're talking about the products that you're using the whole time, what it is, why you use it, and how you use it, or where you use it, and have them videotape the process too. And then as you're having them in the mirror, while you're doing the blowout, they're getting that instant gratification, like, I absolutely love what she did today, right? And we're giving them the confidence that they're gonna be able to go home and mimic that look. So now, I'm gonna go in now with a medium round brush, starting at the fringe so that she can see instantly, like she likes what I've given her, and start smoothing that hair. Thinking about what do I want the end result to be so that I'm blow drying in that direction, right? So I think years ago when I started like round brushing hair, I would just go in and like really take horizontal sections and I would round brush to death, right? You'd go like this, right? And you keep round brushing in this pattern. But if I want the hair to lay away from the face, then I want to make sure that I'm blow drying it away from the face, right? Hold on, I'm gonna change my doll stands here just a second. She's getting a little wobbly. So yeah, if I want the hair to lay away from the face, like Josephine here, then I want to blow dry it away from the face. Otherwise, I have to go back in with my hot tool. And if I'm trying to fight that direction that I'm giving her, then it's just going to cause more work later. Okay, so just coming in, blowing that away. And then I'm going to take vertical sections as I work towards the back profile, keeping in mind that I want that long and lean feel, right? So if I take horizontal sections, I'm going to get a lot of massive volume through that internal part. And what we see with those modern shags is more long and lean volume, right? Like you have that natural volume rather than volume that's been artificially created, if you will, right? So we're coming in from the root, vertically with my round brush, starting at the root area, coming through closer to the ends, and then all the way to the end, smoothing that out, letting it cool slightly on the brush, and I get that really, really beautiful finish. See how really soft that is? Okay, and then I'm going to continue moving towards the back. Now, as I get towards the back, I'm going to change the direction when I'm coming in with my round brush, and rather than going back with the round brush, I'm going to go forward. So just think about how many of you guys, we call it flash curls, how many of you guys, when you are curling or flat iron curls into the hair, how many of you alternate the direction of your curling iron or your flat iron? What that does is make sure that when the hair is finished, that all of the hair isn't going in the exact same direction. Because if it ends up going all in the exact same direction, it becomes one big fat curl. Have you ever noticed that? That like when we curl our hair sometimes, if we curl it all in the same direction, it's like, it's all really cute in the beginning, and then by the end of the day, it's just one big curl. So if I go in alternating directions, it creates a clash curl effect, which gives me a lot more expansion in my end result. So coming up to the root, then through to the mid shaft, and then through to the ends. And this gives you just that really, really beautiful, polished end result. And again, like spinning off professionals who practice, I think this is so important, especially if you are wanting to really hone in on your finishing skills. The finish is everything, right? That's the closing of the deal. So if my finish doesn't look great, then they may not love it as much as they could because the finish isn't great, right? We want them to absolutely just love their hair. Not only the haircut, but the finish. So if you start to practice your finishing, just as those that have assistants in your salons, and you really, really make them practice to get that really beautiful end result, your work just goes to another level. Okay? So again, working towards the back. Now I'm going to take a vertical section. I'll go back with the one by the face, and then I'll alternate and go forward. Without a curling iron or a flat iron, then you've done a good job. So I think that really takes our finishing to the next level as well. And I think that's a great opportunity too for those that have assistants. If you said, okay, I'm not going to give you a flat iron and I'm not going to give you a curling iron, take this blow dryer and this round brush or paddle brush or Denman brush, whichever brush you prefer. And I want to see that hair look really beautiful and soft. I kind of think of the hot tools as being like taking that finish to the next level. Like it's really beautiful and classic and smooth in its true form. And then whatever hot tool you choose takes it to the next level. So roots, through mid-shaft, through ends, let those ends cool down and drop it out. I'll drop down the crown and I'll do the same thing. I'll do vertical sections or radial because it's laying on the round of the head shape. Using my round brush, again, taking my round brush at a vertical rather than horizontal. So if I do horizontal, I'm going to get a lot more manipulated volume. And if that's what you're looking for, then absolutely do that. But if you're looking for more of a long, lean feel, then you want to take more horizontal with your round brush and always going in the direction that you want the hair to live for the end result. I'm just going to lower her down just a little bit. Isn't she looking so beautiful already, though? I think Pivot Point right now has like some great deals as well. So you guys should go on to Pivot Point International right now and check out their doll heads. I love them. I colored both of them last night because I wanted them to be really soft and beautiful for today. as I finish this up, what is your favorite thing that you guys learned today? Put in the comments below, what's your favorite thing that you learned from today's live? What are you going to try right away when you get back to the salon? Post in the comments below. I would love to hear what your takeaway is. Make sure you're smoothing the hair before you hit it with the dryer. Coming roots, through mid-shaft, through to the ends. Roots, mid-shaft, through to the ends. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Favorite thing is how you cut the fringe. Love how to change elevation. Yes, I love that. And again, guys, I'm going to go back through after, and I will comment and reply to all of your comments, your questions. Make sure I answer anything at all that you guys, any questions you may have. You guys can follow me on Instagram at Hair Artistry by Dawn. I have a lot of like long hair dressing inspiration, up styles, braids. But you know, my bread and butter in the salon is really cutting and coloring. So I have started to incorporate a little bit of that into my Instagram page. So I would love for you guys to hop over and check that out as well. Social media is such an amazing opportunity to get inspired, right? Get educated, get inspired. I'm always, when I see things, I'm always like, how can I take that and put my signature on it? You know, like, you can only create so many things, but when you put your signature on it, like, that's what makes it really special. And we're all artists, and we're all looking to be inspired from each other, right? So I love that social media gives us that platform. Two more sections. Thank you guys so much for being so engaging and interactive today. Last one. So again, I've taken my round brushing and I've alternated directions. One forward, one back. Keeping my round brush vertical. So I get more of that long lean. Volume. It's more of like a natural volume. Last one. All right. So this is, I'm going to recap, Valerie, so I'm glad that you asked that. This is my modern take on the classic shag haircut. This is a very long and lean haircut, and I want to show you guys too, like, so this is just round brushed and blow dried, okay? And then my inspo, the one I did last night for my pre-done, I actually went in with a curling iron and did the exact same thing. So I blew her out the way that I did Maddie here. same exact way in more of that true form blowout. And then I went through with my 1-inch curling iron and did the exact same thing. So parted off the top, curled one away, one towards the face, one away, alternating directions, getting that. So you can see that it's just a little bit more curl, but very like airy and almost like feathery, you know? So that is what I did with Josephine. And then with Maddie, I just did like that classic in true form blowout. I'm going to use a little bit of my Artistry Pro Avant-Garde. This is our 3-in-1 hairspray that you can use as a thermal spray because it has 450 degrees thermal protection. So I use that with my curls, but you can also use it as your working spray as well as your finishing spray. See how beautiful that curtain fringe is. So let me just put a little bit more of that. Again, you guys, I encourage you guys to check out some of our Artistry Pro products. You can go on saloncentric.com and check them out. But again, they're only available through professional distribution. So check your distributors to see if Artistry Pro is available. So this is my modern take on the classic shag. So you see how much movement and airiness that you see in the layers? And you almost, when you look at it, you can't quite tell where do the layers start or end. And she's going to have a lot of versatility with her styling, whether she wants to spruce it up with more curls, wear it much more straight. So I want to recap how I created the haircut. And I encourage you guys, the ones that just joined in, I encourage you guys to go back and replay because I have it from start to finish, from the sectioning all the way through to the end result. So what you're going to do is part off the fringe, which is going to be from the apex. So that's where the hair starts, where the head shape starts to round off of the head shape from the hairline. So I'm going to go back to the apex with a center part to the corner of each eye. Okay, so that's going to be your fringe section. Then you're going to part off from the top of the head to just behind the ears, and that's going to be your side sections. Then you're going to take a crown section from just right at the back of the parietal ridge down to a point at the occipital bone. So just keep in mind that your parting should always mimic the direction of your end result. So because I want this short to long in the nape, I took a diagonal back to a point because I want my direction to mimic my parting. Okay, and then I clipped that up out of the way. So I had a fringe, sides, crown area, and then the nape and the rest of the back profile. Started with her fringe, took both sides of her fringe and laterally directed them up to the opposite side. Remember, distance equals length. So I took the center part, I took the left side to the right side to the left, and created short to long feel with my razor. Keep in mind too, guys, like it doesn't have to be this long. You could do like a really beautiful, shorter, more textured fringe. I just wanted to be a little bit more conservative and show you guys how to create it. So if you wanted this shorter, the only thing that you're gonna do is rather than cut it here, you're gonna cut it here. But you'll still get the same end result with your curtain fringe. If you like this, but you want it shorter, you just do it shorter. If you like this, but you want it longer, you just do it longer. Same exact technique. Then I took everything from the side profiles, laterally directed forward to the fringe, used the top of the fringe and cut from short to long. Brought the nape forward, used the sides, cut from short to long, dropped down the crown, subdivided into 4 equal radial subsections. Keeping in mind, elevation is going to decide how much hair you're removing from the surface layers in your design. So then did short to long using the top of the head shape, use that as my reference, and then cut from short to long with the razor. But again, you guys can go back after, you guys can tune in from the very beginning of this live, and I encourage you guys to watch the other Professionals Who Practice series because it's just so good and it's a great way to just be re-inspired and re-educated and try a new way, a new approach to creating those classic shapes that we're creating every day in the salon. So again, this is Josephine. She's curled, same exact haircut. And this is Maddie, same exact haircut, but just blown out in classic form. So I want to thank you guys so much for spending this hour with me. Thank you, Hairbrain, for asking me to come on. I was really, really honored. And thank you, Pivot Point, for sponsoring this series, because I think it's, you know, practice is everything and practice creates confidence. So the more you practice, the more confident you're going to be behind the chair and the more successful you guys are going to be. So again, thank you guys so much. My name is Dawn Atkinson. You can follow me on @HairArtistryByDawn on Instagram. And until next time, stay healthy. You guys are amazing. We have the best industry in the world. And thank you guys so much for spending this last hour with me. Bye, guys.